Shalom, everyone. My name is Wilmer Rocha. I am a server of the Eternal Father and a disciple of the Messiah, Yeshua. I want to make kind of a testimony today, something that had happened already from some quite of time already, 6 years to be more literal. Uh, exactly a day like today, October 31st, it was actually the starting point of change when we actually, or I could say that my life started changing and doing that teshuvah on the service to the Eternal, recognizing His light, His Son, Yeshua, the Messiah. What religiously is being known as Jesus or Christ, I actually could say that I have no issue with the name, but actually, when you start understanding what's idolatry and how paganism has been involved inside of the faith and how Satan has changed some of those truths to lies and deceiving people to believe whatever lie into a truth. And actually, those lies are pretty much dogmas and thoughts, philosophies that man has built himself through the ages, through the time. So basically, this time of testimony is to recognize that I was part of one of the system before, and I thanks to the Eternal, came to believe in Him, to search His light to His Son, recognize the Torah in the word of the Messiah, and reject every single thing the paganism and the social life, the construct of this world has built to um, pretty much keep you away from holiness and sanctification, right? To reject God, to reject the Messiah Himself. People believe today that being part of the normal customs of this world, it has nothing to deal with religiosity. But you start finding people that when you start telling them truths, as you know what, Christmas is pagan, as same as a Halloween, and they say no, 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 Christmas is has nothing to deal with paganism. But that part of the ignorance that we receive due that the lack of knowledge that we have from the academic systems that teach us just the good enough to keep us working as slaves in their factories in the school system, and it's a pre-built system that has been constructed just to sustain themselves and keep people enforced in such as a thought that they cannot think anything else outside of their limits. Something happened inside of religion. They start taking the word and enclose it into four walls and said, and it's contrary what actually Messiah said, that is, go to the nations and preach the good news of Teshuvah, the good news, to come back to the Father and make disciples for me. Don't enclose them to four walls. Put a name. This is the beautiful church of whatever verse of the Bible is there, fits for your beliefs, and take whatever you want, build your own dogmas, start making your own traditions, and you know that actually Messiah said you actually change the commandments of God for the traditions of men, or denying the commandments of the Most High for the tradition by traditions of men. By when I mean traditions of men, even though he meant it culturally speaking to the people of Israel on that time, especially for Pharisees. We know that today we have a kind of different thought of Phariseeism, and is these kind of pastors or Ray or even all those whoever thinks that teach scripture and has any kind of a title, namely it could be theology or it could be any kind of a uh, perception they can say it. Even outside of the Bible, religious thoughts think that they are advocates of something that they don't know. I just encountered people that said that a religious advocate, but is still believing in some kind of paganism thoughts. You can name it a New Age Kundalini, and they started thinking that they can have peace, but they have burn incense or listen to certainly kind of music. It has no sense in the brain to have peace for yourself when you don't have peace with others. And that's exactly what Torah and the Messiah teaches, that you should be on shalom, on peace, on plenitude with everyone around you in order to keep that peace in your brain, in your heart, in inner yourself. Every time that we see that in those words. So pretty much today is just a little reflection of how I came to um, believe into faith. And I'm starting with a little presentation I got a long, long time ago, I guess. Since I started coming to the house of biblical studies, I came to bring that presentation to show myself to the brother Antonio. Remember that pretty well. So let's get in there. Uh, Another part of introduction I wanted to give, that before I started to thinking about religion when I was a child, everybody back home, I am South American from Colombia, from Bogota. It's very Catholic country. It's a very Catholic country. So you have to grow up in those thoughts. You have to grow up according those dogmas. The Sunday gathering, the Lord's Supper, the Trinity, and the holiness of the cross. All those kind of dogmas, indulgences, all those kind of things. Especially this time is talking about Luther. Uh, I start questioning myself why they keep teaching the same thing over and over after year. If the Bible is so dense, and if they say it is so wide and it speaks about the God knowledge, and just keep praying and saying the same things over and over, and it makes no sense in my brain that repeating the same thing is gonna give me some kind of a holiness or some kind of a spirituality growing. So when you have and you encounter those kind of spiritual advocates, when they have uh, their parents to be pastors, or somebody in their family to be a theologian, of course it's still part of a religion, and religion is not part of Bible is not religion. It's never been constructed to have a someone enclosed for certain kind of people. It's for everyone, and everybody who willing to enter in covenant with the Most High, with the most, the creator of the universe. He has created the universe. And in order to understand this world, you have to know everything is perfectly done. Since every single hearing you have, till every single thing that exists in this world is controlled and managed by his wisdom. It's a creator of intelligence. It's an intelligent design. It's not something come from pooh, and that's it. It's something that has been created with intention, that works perfectly in an ecosystem that lives by itself. It's a reflection of the power and the potency of something that is beyond our thoughts, the eternal himself, right? The Most High, the creator. So I started, rejecting religion. I didn't want to go against my mother, but I want to have a really clear understanding that that was not what I wanted to believe when I want to grow up. So I neither believe in Christianity because they still have the same dogmas. I became to studying a lot of things by myself into history, like I'm just gonna show pretty quick here something that you just can Google yourself inside of a, and Google is such a strong, powerful weapon today that you can use for yourself, and start avoiding to believe into whatever pastor tells you. Go research yourself. Go and make a deep research for understanding what it could be and what it not be truth of what it's telling you. I mean, we have to look for biblical truths, but it doesn't mean because we live in this earth, in this realm of the creation, that we need to know if spice is spicy is because it's really spicy into your mouth, and that's the truth. You know that if you take a green tea for yourself, it's going to be very beneficial into what you really think that it could be beneficial for you or not. So those are truths because those are concerning things that really are meant for you. But what we need to understand is that through the history, a lot of the dogmas have been built into something that men had built for themselves, avoiding what actually really meant for the reality. An example, what happened with the 9/11, that people thought it was Afghanistan, and when actually was actually constructed in some of the same uh, government, right? And people just don't know what truth is. It's just being hidden because this is the best benefit for that certainly group of people. But when we go, for example, on Christendom, and I'm gonna go just pretty quick here. Let's see if I have. I think it's right here. If you go and who changed, and you ask any, any you ask any, what could I say, uh sorry, if you ask any Christian what it could be, some kind of a understanding who changed the Saturday for a Sunday, and they don't know. They say, oh, it's because of Jesus was raised on the Sunday, and then okay, and that's it. Why he was raised on a Sunday and not in a Shabbat day? It is supposed to be a day for praising the Eternal, and they forgot totally what is written down in Leviticus 23, that the first day, the day of the after of the week for them was a Sunday. It was not called even Sunday; it was called just the first day of the week, Yom Rishon. But this part of ignorance, and ignoring what culturally was believed back then, and what the impact on the new believers coming into faith, what they thought that they can change for them, instead of changing themselves for the scripture, for holiness, right? Those things, like you ask them who changed it, they don't know. It was an emperor, a Roman emperor, who actually changed, and he was a sun worshiper, not S-O-N. He was an S-U-N, a sun worshiper, a worshiper of the sun, something that's very condemned as idolatry inside of the prophets. And then later on, papacy also changed Christmas. There was a date done by the sun god Tammuz on the Egyptian gods, and they just don't get it. It's a good book called The Two Babylons that you can research for yourself. But if that doesn't give you enough, Bible says that the Messiah was born when pastors were outside, pasturing their sheep. It doesn't make you senses in the middle of the winter by Christmas time. No, it makes no sense at all. So you get a fact in there that is more reliable to trust in something that is truth. You're not gonna see any pastor pastoring your sheep in the middle of the winter. For people who knows how Jerusalem is by the times of winter, after October and November, where it started rains coming more oftenly, some snow as well, you know that's impossible. Though those ships go down to a different kind of valley, but not in Jerusalem. That's not possible. It's just not logical at all. And you get all these things. So you make consciences of what is real, and then try to construct something in your brain that actually goes with the facts that you really can downgrade into how you walk, and how you perceive the things in the world. And you understand that something is not right, and then you advocate for those things that are right, and not for just unconscious thing that it makes no change in your life at all. There's not beneficial at all. So if you see that in there, if you see that, pretty much you say, Roman Emperor Constantine I, right here, on March 7 and 321, Emperor Constantine issued a civil decree making Sunday a day of rest from labor, stating that all judges and city people and craftsmen shall rest upon the venerable day of the sun. Of the sun. How about that? Now, let's change it for just Christmas. The Saturnalia, Christmas Saturnalia. That's the true name of it. In December, in an ancient Roman pagan festival, honor agricultural god Saturn. And Saturn, it's another name for Satan. This is so. The Romans actually celebrated two holidays in the month of December. The first was Saturnalia. It was a 2-week festival honoring the god of agriculture, Saturn, on December 25th. They celebrated the birth of Mithras. You know Mithras is? Mithras is the sun god. It's actually more Roman, but you know that this comes also from Tammuz, the god sun, the son of Horus and Osiris, on the Egyptian religion. This is just facts. This is not something that is come down. I mean, it says here in a simple Google search, and I actually came to understand this, and when I was little, and I say I don't want to believe this. I can't believe that anything that is Bible centered, that it has to deal with this kind of a thoughts. It's not possible that anything that speaks about truth says lies like this and condemned to idolatry. It has no sense at all. I mean, it's no rationality that if you want to be in holiness, then you have to follow man-made traditions, rejecting the commandments of the Almighty. Uh, where is the common rationality of that band? And you can see that people is just following lies and following the deceptions that men have made himself in order to cover pagan traditions. They made it holy, as just happened in the night of the All Hallows with the Halloween, something that the Roman Catholic Church just invented themselves. Now, I'm gonna go with another one. How about January 1st? This Pope Gregory the Seventh introduced a revised calendar in 1582, in addition to solving the issue with the leap years. So the Gregorian calendar started January 1st is the start of the new year. Now, this is followed by the Januarius, which is a Roman god as well. A Roman god. A Roman god Januarius. Let's see if Janus, sorry, yeah. Janus. Just look for it. The god of the beginnings and the gates, translations of time. Duality, doorways, passages, frames, endings. Hmm? It's a god Janus. I mean, and they call it in Januarius, which is the month of January for us today, and they still thinking that this is the beginning of the year. Seriously, this is not the beginning of the year. And if you go actually, what is the biblical New Year? Of course, it's Nisan. They said it's Nisan because of the Jewish has put their own names into months, but actually it's called Aviv. Biblical says in Exodus that this is going to be the first month of the year for you, the head of the year for you. And curiously, the first month of Aviv falls on April, when the renewing of the life start happening again. The winter is gone, and you still having a renewing of life. Animals come to life. All the trees can green again. You have water, you have rain, you have fruits that you can actually harvest on your land. Something that happened in Jerusalem and Israel on those times, and something happens today. We still have in winter time, and we don't harvest on winter time. We harvest in summertime when we can have our fruits. And you know that biblicals always speak about fruits and giving all those good fruits in life, but you won't be able to have fruits when it's all talking about dead people and pagan gods. It makes no sense. So Aviv, the first months of the year. It makes sense also that if this is a renewal of the time, it should be somewhere in the spring, after the winter is gone, and not actually on October like today, right? So all these things come the Council of Nicaea, right? In Nicaea. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. I'm sorry for my English as well. I got to say that an apology. Some people don't get it. I'm not an English speaker. I'm a Spanish speaker, but this is what the Eternal has given me to give the blessings on my table. That's what the Eternal sustains me, and have sustained so many of those. So we can see here, maybe here a little bit. So the Fourth Council of Nicaea was a council of Christian bishops converted to Bithynian city of Nicaea with Roman Emperor Constantine. Oh, this is the same guy that changed the Saturday for the Sunday. He doesn't care about the commandments. He just do whatever he wants with them. Not even Jesus, in quotes, said that, I came not to abolish but to fulfill. And they said, you know what? He abolished the commandments in the cross. something you say, okay, okay, something is not right in there. Who I'm gonna trust more, Paul or Jesus? And they don't decide. They actually put Paul on the pedestal over the same Jesus because of that. So it says in there also that Council of Nicaea, the first ecumenical council for the Christian Church, met in ancient Asia and Turkey. Of course, 320 because it's nothing, and it says ecumenical because it was different people that believe different things, and they didn't have a concern of what was going on. How would you conserve a religion that have many ideas constructed to abort around the time and the ages? And these things come to be a dogma that you cannot doubt at the beginning of the year is in January as worshiping a sun god. Happy New Janus, right? It's just coming at the end, at the right of the corner for the people who live in that Gregorian calendar. But you start just taking these things and say, you know what, I don't want to believe this. I don't want to believe this. I just want to follow the Eternal Father. I want to live into His will, into His wisdom, and to His salvation. And there you go. You're gonna find eternal. You're gonna find what His nature gonna be. So when I consider the heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, would you establish what is a man, that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that you have care of him, that you made him a little lower than the angels and crowning him with splendor and majesty. You know that we are the crown of the creation. We are the crown of the creation, where it's not just curiously that some entity is jealous of what we are for him, because he was created quite the same, but he couldn't uphold that place that he's supposed to handle in heavens. So what I want to actually develop here is October 31st, 6 years ago from today. um I was studying a subject that fellow from the church I used to congregate. I passed like for a year after I got married. I got that vow to the Eternal that anything that He has gave to me, I will gratitude with Him. Anything He asked me to do, because He has give me everything I wanted, my family. So I did that, and I started congregating every 15 days to that church. But that vow was to the Eternal, not to the pastor. And then the pastor started regretting every single kind of words against me and my family anyway. So, and that was coming from somewhere that I didn't want to come true. I didn't want to believe in religion. I don't want to believe in religion when I was little. And then but coming to understand the word, and studying, actually, I got to a topic from the brother Antonio, that it was fallen angels. I understand a lot of what's Nimrod, the angelical intervention, how they have corrupted humankind with thoughts, with philosophy, through the history of time, right? So all those things make me rethink on what I was thinking, because I was to be agnostic and atheist. Um, that built my brain in a different way, and changing my life, structure of thinking, and recognizing that He was the Most High, the creator of the universe. Even though I was, like I said, I was agnostic, I didn't have religion, and I didn't want to believe any kind of thoughts in the man that has built. But I started making my own God of myself, an ego God, as we just spoke before. And I studied philosophy and a lot of things that it really make my brain start going crazy. So yes, fallen angels were kind of those subjects that made my life easier to understand what it was, these kind of thoughts that changed my life. And of course, it wasn't October 31st, like I said. I just started taking every single pagan thing that I have and breaking in my own hands, throwing to the window, Christmas tree, music, something I'm just going to show you. For you say I'm rich, I have made myself wealthy, and I need nothing. Richness, scripturally talking, is not necessarily talking about money. Is talking about also knowledge of wisdom. For those theologians that they said that they believe and that if you don't study theology, you were not able to speak about God or speak about the word, that you won't be able to teach or lead some kind of a congregation. Guess what? When he chose Cornelius, who was there? It was, nobody there. But then sent Peter to try to see there. We might come to see that later. Um, Things that you don't sense, that why we have to study theology when they all teach lies, as we just saw, when they just speaking about things that are not common sense into what they believe is supposed to believe in scripture. So when I came to realize all these crooked things, like I said, angelical interventions and the humankind into the history, and people start believing that that part of the history is actually what they believe, because some of those part of the history are being denied for humankind to fulfill what is, if it's better for later religion. Example, Judaism, right? They is still thinking that they are the choosing people, when the choosing people is actually inside of the Messiah and is for the whole humankind, as the promise to Abraham, right? The all nations, all families on the earth. Um, so this is, part of the richness is in recognizing that you have nothing, and that you're you don't have anything, but you need of him. You need that richness from him, and I need nothing, right? So you can say them, no, 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 I don't need to understand anything. I don't believe what you're saying. Don't tell me about those commandments because they're burdensome, stuff like that. And you can see my joke is easy, and even in the old Testament, in quotes, the Tanakh and the Torah said they are not far away. They're not on the other side of the sea. So you say you cannot keep them, right? But actually, when you go to the letter of Romans, that is to make down, to bring down the Messiah, to bring him down from heavens, and to bring the same message that he gave to the people on the Mount Sinai. People think have an excuse. He has no excuse now, because somebody came from heavens to say the same thing that he was saying on Sinai. hmm So, but you don't know that you're miserable and pitiable and poor, blind and naked. I was that. I felt myself naked that night. I got a kind of a spiritual vision of a kind of Egyptian god biting my rib, and I wake up and screaming and yelling, and that was on October 31st. And I just remind me today, and I said I have to speak about this. I have to, maybe I have that in Spanish already, but I wanted to say it in English for some people, some brothers that have that experience, and uh, understanding that it's not what we dream, but sometimes it's our own thoughts that obstacle us to believe into what is the clear way to get to the Father, which is through the Son, right? And it's not through dogmas, not through religion, but through the Son. That's it. It's not in a congregation that they reside in a specific place, that they habitate in a specific place, right? Because it's in a spirit and truth. It's following the Father wherever he goes, and in truth, that is the word of the Father. Nothing harder than that. Uh, and recognize that is the riches that we need to come for, and of course recognizing that we are poor, that we have nothing to deal with it. I advise you to buy from me gold refined by fire. That richness of the Holy Spirit, of the Ruach HaKodesh, the presence, the Holy Presence. No, and that you may be rich, well, and white clothes, so that you may dress yourself, so the shame of your nakedness will not be revealed. And eye salve to anoint your eyes, that you shall may see. So you have to recognize that you're blind, you're naked, you're not dressed, all your filthiness is being exposed, and that is because the light is shining upon you, so you can see all the filthiness in your body, your filthiness, all those things that are not, if you believe that he is a creator, you will believe that the potency of the heavens are expression of his mightiness. You will believe also that every single thing that he said is truth. I mean, if he's the creator of the heavens, you will understand that not eating pork is gonna be a blessing for you. Who else is gonna know more than that? And there is no dogma that can go against it. I'm taking something that Acts 15, for example, to eat everything they want. It's just the most crooked mind that you can get it to try to live whatever they want instead of understanding holiness and sanctification. And also crooked, crooked the actual message of the Bible so they can believe whatever they want. So this is for this day. I guess I don't want to go too long with it. Very simple. And here, these are the major topics of my idol that I got back then. I got philosophy, of course. I got religion, agnosticism. I made my own religion. I started being agnostic myself. I didn't want to believe in any kind of a religion says. I want to make my own statements of what I consider truth and what it cannot be truth. Of course, I wanted to live in every single thing by what my rationality tells me, not too much about my emotions, but more of rationality could tell us that that if the sun is too hot, it's too hot. It's gonna burn. You know, things like that. I mean, the conception of, for example, that if he has sent his son, and the son speaks about the words of the father, and he is my God and your God, and stuff like that, then you're gonna start realizing that hey, it's not the same person. And then you see in the first council of Nicaea that what we just saw, I think is right here. Let's see, where is it? uh he was talking about that Jesus and God were the same person. The council of the council agreed that Jesus is truly God, and its no published creed starting the Christian faith would totally condemn Arianism. And Arianism spoke about no, it was differently. So you can see it was a totally ecumenical uh, thoughts. They were not agreed in anything. It was just whichever. Or you just take an example today. You're Mormon, okay. You're Jehovah Witness, okay. You're evangelical, okay. You're Jewish, okay. You're Christian, okay. You're Catholic. Let's go together, and we're gonna establish one truth. Establish one truth, and that's gonna be the only thing you can think about it. And it's being established today by one religion is called Catholicism, followed by one other religion, was Christianism, with all 50,000 denominations, and they believe that Jesus is God. Actually, some Hebrews still think the same thing. Ironically, but it's truth. It's true. What else you can do about it is nothing. It's the way they conceive their own dogmas, and you cannot change them at all. So that's my thought, and just little comments inside, so I can explain a little bit. Multicultural heritage, of course. I'm Colombian and South American. You can avoid it to express yourself with some emotion sometimes, music, food, even some face and body expressions that you show by yourself, but those are actually part of your multicultural heritage, or the part of the sociology where you live in. So, and those are actually things that you have learned also. People have teach through the time because they live in that certainly area, but there's things that have nothing to deal with the actual believer, the Messiah. If those things actually don't drive you into holiness, into good behaviors, into values, into morals that are according to Torah, you better leave them away. Video games, of course, video games, they were uh, a big joke in my life since I was maybe 12. So actually, the lenses I wear today is part of this. You can say judgment, because they damaged your brain, they damaged your fingers, they damaged your eyes. They I have my hands a little bit uh the form of having the control form in my hands. And yeah, that's very burden. Music, of course, I listen a lot of heavy metal, different kind of heavy metal, but those was, I guess, I think could say that was my biggest idol. It was the music. I got a lot of heavy metal music that I listened. I got in my laptop over 30 gigs of just pure music back then. So, one of the things that really hit me hard when I was thinking, when I came atheist after I just rejected religion, was the existentialism and the accepticism. I started being accepting of everything that I believed, every single thing that I see, and every single thing that I heard. I studied religions. I studied Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, Buddhism, Islam, and Muslim. And I just end up thinking that except that exactly same thought that people from the first 3 4 centuries did with religions, even from the 7th century. They just start thinking and doing their own thing with the truths that they can find here and there, and nothing actually that really is down ground to the roots of the rational of the human being that helps to the universal values, but just by the values of certainly kind of people. And that is actually not true. This is a part of the truth, and if it's a part of the truth, not a full truth, it's a lie. So here I'm gonna find one of the guys that I read more when I used to be a Gentile, and it's something that I suffered, a cause of reading too much and deeping myself too much into uh, the clues that the brain can play with you. And it was, uh, I felt that the emptiness of myself. I couldn't find anything that really fulfilled me, because uh, everything that exists is gonna drain me. I think it's existential anguish, something like that. I'm gonna translate it pretty quick if I could do so. So every single thought that I receive from school, I'm gonna give pretty. I just don't want to do something. Uh, existential angst. Yeah. So I started suffering of it. It was kind of a brain problem into existential anguish that yes, you cannot think about anything else. It's just, every single thing that you think is going to be a problem. So Nietzsche defines that as he who fights with monsters should look that into it, that he himself does not become a monster. When you gaze long into the abyss also gaze into you. So being atheist is gonna take you away the only explanation that you can give to spirituality, and then you're gonna have to fall into materialism fully. For those of you who have here in Spanish, maybe I I got being tied by my ex-wife with a silver cross that I used to wear, and that cross didn't allow me to find a piece until I just threw it away. Actually, my actual wife spotted, and she threw it off for me. And then actually, time later, I started finding again my spiritual life, my connection to, with the Ruach Hakodesh, with the Father. And these things actually exist. You can't deny that the spirituality or the realm of the spirits. You can say demons. You can say angels, messengers from the heavens. They are real, and they do actually deceive people. They do actually can interact with this world. That's why Wicca and we this talking about today, all of this. Satanism is not a lie. It does exist. Witchcraft, it does exist. It's not something that you can just ignore and just pass away by, because it does exist. And when you see all of this exist and you just deny and just being a just materialistic life, then you start being dead in yourself, that you can really explain a whole world being just materialistic. That's why science cannot explain the origin of the universe. That's why science cannot explain the origin of life. That's what science cannot explain actually intelligence itself, and many more like that. That's what science can understand by itself. If the round is by itself in the shape whatever you want us to do. I mean, you need more than that. You need beyond understanding and rationality of how things works in the universe, by the potency of the hands of the creator, how the sun has certainly influence on the planets and the earth, the moon, then the ecosystem inside of the earth with all the winds and the water moving around to give life, the trees, the air, the oxygen, carbon, all that energy moving around, and then comes a human being interacting with all these things, right? So I was in the middle of all of it, and I became an atheist for a long while, uh, until I joined the army. In the army, I did had to um, see a lot of this esotericism, the fetishism, all of those witchcraft. Like I told you, I received that cross from my ex-wife, and I got tight. But then, thanks to my actual wife, and that was gone, and so I can in the army I started seeing all of these things. I did have to lift dead. I have to lift injured people, clean a lot of blood, ammunition, food, all those supplies. It was kind of a logistic part of it, and I realized that the human being cannot be defined just by materialistic ways. So I did have to believe in a creator. I just couldn't explain how to give it into my brain, right? Like you cannot explain without scriptures, without uh, by yourself. I mean, if I want to explain it, you want to determine how the creator is, you won't be able to tell until he actually reveals to you, right? If you don't know him, then you don't know him. But you cannot deny him because you can see in creation and the wickedness of men. Because, sorry, I also had the chance to analyze how man itself destroys what is good because of thoughts of the government, because of thoughts that actually corrupt men by its own, and things like this. When you realize that all these things are actually just part of deception of Satan, that comes to kill, to destroy, and deceive, and then man actually start following his own thoughts and actually perceiving what Satan wants to do, and playing with the minds and the lives of human beings, just spilling blood and innocent thought. Then you realize that that beast, that human thought, is just destroying itself, and you don't want to be part of it, right? You want to start looking for righteousness, for up righteousness. You start looking for those virtues that make the man be a merry man. And I start questioning to myself after 4,000, 5,000 years of knowledge, wisdom, religion, intelligence, developing of cultures, how we end up here. We're destroying ourselves with our food, with the weapons, with governments. How we end up the human being such a toy of himself. And I started just finding out that the world is going to an end. This is apocalypse already happening. This is something that it has no explanation, that is just a wrath of something going on. The wrath of the Most High, for sure. But I couldn't explain and have any other reason but that. And they just start believing in the creator. And I said, that's what I want. Of course, I just realized this was part of the esotericism I want to reject. And that's why I started being agnostic taste. I didn't want to believe it because Gnosticism believed that this is part of the truth. Kabbalah, and Kundalini Buddhism, their chakras and meditation and all of these things, they're actually, I mean, you can't deny that a good aroma is gonna make your house feel better. But that emotion of feeling better is never gonna fulfill the plenitude of your mindfulness if you just keep, thinking away of your brain. You need to actually connect your brain with all your emotions and your rationality. Said, do I actually need an incense to feel good? How stupid is to think that I'm gonna need something like music to be in peace with myself or with others? Do I need the influence of outside world to change myself to others? If the changes start from me, I'm gonna be the speaker actually. I'm gonna be the speaker to others of telling them how to process yourself with peace. Something that very biblical we understand is from in yourself we drain waters from the Messiah, right? So these things I rejected totally. I didn't want to know about it. I even though that didn't mean that I didn't study some of it. I actually end up studying a lot of the uh, Egyptian esotericism and the way they actually perceive their religion, their gods, and all of this. That's why I can tell you for granted. Christmas is a sun, sun, worshiping. And speaking about today, they just gonna wanna keep, customs and not telling about what is true or not. And of course, religion. I just thought religion. If we're killing by governments, I can imagine how religion has done through the time. I just believe that all those blood spill shed, bloodshed, is totally necessary. Uh, because again, it's not about the changing by something from exterior, but I mean interior change. And I started to doing that since then, since the army, and started to changing myself. Of course, in there, I didn't have no chance to study the word. I didn't want to study the word because it was short Catholicism. Uh, Colombian army is driven by the Catholic Church. But so I just started reading sometimes by myself with no good fruit at all, and I just kept like that. I just let my way go with the life, with everything that I can see in the cultural life that we have back home. And of course, then you have, if you can find spirituality, you're gonna find that emotionalism that fits your life, right? That fits your emotions. And so I start believing in human rights, the government, soccer, arts. Of course, I love believing arts and social life. I studying the Holocaust, Second World War. I studying all those things that shape our world today. These are the things that shape the world that we see today. Now, when we start to understanding that the shape the world that that we see today are being shaped by the thoughts that human have built in the last 200, 300, 500 years, we start understanding that everything that is not holy is being imposed because man is just thinking by their own way, and that he gives to the last congregation of the Apocalypse and the Book of Visions of Laodicea. Laodicea. Laodicea is the people's law. The people's law is not something holy. It's just everybody wants to do their own. So I start getting all of that, that you want to dress up to the last time. You want the best cap, you want the best sneakers. If you don't dress with by the name, then you're not gonna you're not gonna be, uh, I guess a good example of the youth icon, whatever. But even I didn't want to be. Wasn't that interested in having fancy things. If I couldn't find, if I could not, then I go away with it. But that, of course, it makes a big influence into the person back home, into any youth, into South American. I also believe that actually here in Americas, I live in Canada today. It's something that it really crooks the mind of the people, because this is a very materialistic society today. And of course, in other countries that they just want to learn the way that the beast teaches them, right? So if you don't have a TV, if you don't have a radio and earplugs and earbuds, if you don't have what could I say, Even a wallet what is a trademark, you're not cool, or some kind of a ink woes, you're out. So those things actually, get into my life. I just actually part of the thing that I still doing it today, but I actually try to apply Torah wise is being part of the union. I am part of the union, and that has been a blessing for so many. After I've tried to introduce some of the Torah laws when we have negotiations with the company that I work with. So yeah, it's just I changed some of these things to try to do it for a good knowledge, like the study I have in Spanish with the service of the House of Biblical Studies, Sinagoga de Satanás. That was a announcement of the study of the usurper's return. That's also in Spanish, and that is a service that Brother Antonio gave about pretty much these people who used to be make themselves called Jews, but they're not, and all the controversy around them, and all these things. So this change made my life by then. Of course, video games were a big part of me and my life. I wanted to be full time even until I got to Canada. I got my son, I got my wife today, and I still rock into video games. I just used to spend the whole weekend rocking to this. My wife just, lost. I have them just by appearance, like having a, you know, just something else. I didn't want to really put attention to them, or I maybe if you wish, but this thing just drags you away so much into a world what is just like a picture. It's just there, and you just get destroyed in the moment you unplug your TV from the wall. In that moment that you disconnect from it, that world is destroyed. That's how banal that is. I used to be good at it. I used to be really good at all at the games that I used to play. But yes, these ones actually are really something that it damaged your brain, your short-term memory. It damaged your brain circulation too. Your eyes became blind. A lot of things like that. So it was a very heavy burden that I have to leave. But for sure, and actually, there's a subliminal messages into them too, right? Like kill, like obey the bees, like this is the way it has to be believed. USA is the best. Things like this, right? They actually sell a lot of influence from the world to the from the USA. So that's pretty much one of the tools that they use to conquer our kids today. Selling tools to entertain them the easy way, just to feel their emotions, because this thing is just keep feeling the emotions, and they know that's one way to control the masses today. Very easy one. Something that I also just threw away that night. The music: heavy metal, power metal, black metal, symphonic metal, goth metal, core, new, rock and roll, salsa, merengue, bachata, electronica. I don't know. It was a good mixture of a lot of things, because I would be in South America and I listen every single kind of music that I've been learning by culture wise. But I wanted to live by some kind of a weird reason in outside of the country since I was a little, and I learned English since I was almost 12, 10. And yeah, I used to love bands like Implosion Brain, Pink Floyd, Godflesh, all of these bands in there that just by name, I just gonna make you show you guys just by name. These bands just speaks how you have a dead life. And when he speaks, and you can tell actually with any kind of music, but I'm just gonna give you example of this one. By example, Incubus is a demonic being that possesses you so he can have sexual intercourse with other uh, persons. So incubus, they actually They don't believe in the actual demon, but the way how music by frequencies works, it doesn't need to actually tell you what it is, because it's just frequencies. Frequencies are uh, waves of energy, and you know that the creation that we actually see is developed by waves of energy every single way, or sound. So you see the King Scorpion, Godsmack, Pantera, In Flames, Fear Factory, Dope. I mean, I just think today about is it's not something that I feel happy at all, but you can see that I was dead by myself in life, even though I think that I was very smart, that I being agnostic and not believing in religion was a good thing. And I thought to myself that having this kind of a music is gonna give me peace, and that used to scream to my wife and tell them leave my life alone. I couldn't need to my listen to my music to be in peace. I couldn't be in peace with my own wife without the music. Nonsense, nonsense. So of course I started studying the House of Biblical Studies with Brother Antonio. I just finished that seminary of the fallen angels and the usurpers, and I started recognizing that voice that has spoke to us since since 2,000 years ago. In many ways, in very various ways of all, Elohim spoke to the fathers in the prophets, and this last day He has spoken to us in the Son, whom He appointed heir of all, and by whom He made the worlds, whom He made the universe, the creation. Understanding how the splendor of the eternal is being shown in His Son, and understanding how the scripture speaks us about the Son from Genesis to Apocalypse, not just a few books of the Bible, but that I can take Him any part of the Bible. You can 200% speaking about the Messiah, not being afraid of getting the Bible and opening about the Messiah in any part of prophets of the scripture, and not just following dogmas, right? That was something that I was really happy about it. It feels my life a lot. It feels my social life, my relationship with my wife, with my kids, at work. Uh, it's a compliment that you have an instruction in which one you can grow up and being that person that everybody needs, and it's a service to the eternal. It's not something you're inventing for yourself, or trying to make an effort and not contaminated with some kind of the world. Actually, you're being part of it, but actually, it's something that the eternal is setting you apart, and He's doing the task. It's not that you yourself are obligated, but you're doing it because you love that salvation. You're taking that salvation into your hands. That's actually my image that I took. I understood that the Bible was, the instruction of the Father was something that I have uphold for myself, on my brain, in my heart. And then understanding what's the covenant, to put those laws, those instructions, those customs that Eternal wants us to have, so He can be my Elohim, my God, my Creator, my Judge, and I can be His Son. It's just part of that covenant, and then that's part of His presence in my life. In Christendom, something doesn't get that. When you're part of that covenant, they don't know sometimes what covenant is about, or where is it written, or what is it for, how are the causes of that holy presence to be in our lives. Something that is being ignored today, because sometimes they say, what, today is a pagan day, but they don't think about Christmas. And you say, what, Christmas is also a pagan day, something created by men. And it actually used to be a pagan day from the Romans, or from the Egyptians, Babylonians, worshiping the sun gods, gods of the sun. They just entirely close their life to understanding and try to research or trying to do things. Finally, very very funny way, I got some guy coming back at me and saying, you know what, Shabbat is Babylonian world. I really got pissed because who told you that? No, it's a scholar. A scholar. There's nothing bigger that you can actually deny. There's a scholar from Bible telling you that the Shabbat is a Babylonian world. But he never questioned Sunday, the day of the sun. He never questioned when Christmas was built, who imposed it, New Year. He never questioned uh, why he was raised the first day of the week and not actually the day that the Eternal had sanctified, a Shabbat, a Saturday, if you want to call it that way. But people just don't, they just stuck with what people have said. I'm happy with what you say, and they're just happy with it. They don't have a really. Then what you see that they are thinking like animals, because if they think, I'm telling you, they're gonna be happy with this incense because this incense is gonna tell you how you're gonna feel you're good, and then this flavor of this thing is gonna tell you how good you're gonna be because you're gonna feel. Hey, for feelings and emotions, you're just gonna be feelings and emotions in your body, but your brain, should drive everything in your body along with your emotions. Yes, but nothing outside of the world. These things, in conclusion, I started understanding that Bible was the center of my life, the Word of the Father, and that the kingdom of heaven is present on those white horses. Some people will get it too. Uh, it was something I want to be part of. I want to be part of the kingdom of heavens. I want to be part of that those horses running on the earth and conquering and conquering with eternal. I wanted to be Israel. I wanted to be the body of the Messiah. So that's what it was back then. And of course, that's my wife. How I can repay Adonai for all his boundaries to me. I will lift up the cup of salvation, Yeshua, and call the name of the eternal. And call on the name of eternal. So that's something that I really wanted to do. And I remember when I went back to the church and asked them, I do eat pork. And then they asked me Acts 15. And Acts 15, and then I went, okay, let's go to Acts 15. And they said that because Peter, no, actually Acts 10. I think it was Acts 10. Let me see. Peter's vision, yes. Don't call unclean because, don't call the unclean. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't change here. The East word. Don't call the unclean. I'm going to be here. The East word. Where is it? Now, Peter was mulling over the vision here. He saw the heavens open and something like a red sheet coming down, lowered by its four corners, entered to the earth. And there were all sort of four-footed animals and reptiles, birds in the air. A voice came to him, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter said, "Certainly not, my eternal, for never I eaten anything unholy or unclean." Wait a moment. Peter is calling food unholy? There is food that is unholy? Oh wow, there's food that is unholy. This is the first thing that you actually need to think. I know it's a message, but he's also talking about something that he considers unholy and unclean. Why would Peter consider something unholy and unclean to eat? Now, the Father is telling him to not to actually eat of those, right? So, and again the voice came to him, saying to me, "What the Most High has made clean, you must not consider unholy." Now, before you can get to there, you have to go a little bit back. And then it says, it's a what? It's a vision. It's a vision. It's not literal. It's not saying actually every single pork that you see, you can bite it. Give away your bacon, right? Now he became very hungry and he wanted to eat, but while they were preparing something, fell into a trance. Same thing than Daniel. He just started seeing visions. John also happened the same thing, and he saw the heavens open, How would you see the heavens open? Something in the spiritual realm, right? Something in it's a vision. Come on. No other word in that. It's a vision. You keep going down. He's not talking about food. Okay, he's not talking about food. Stop that. Now, what Peter was mulling over the vision, the Ruach had to mean, look here, there are three men looking for you. Da 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 da. Da. You can go down. But Peter points to say, stand up and to as a man. You know what, your brothers and myself. He said to them, yourself know that I'm not permitted to. Now, these are Jewish laws, right? This is Jewish law. It's not. He was still unlearning that custom from that. The Pharisees of not committing with Gentiles because of though. But the Eternal did this. I was praying in God in my house. Suddenly, a man stood in front of me in shining clothes. A malach, a messenger, showed to him. How a messenger was told to him to what? Right? He wanted to share his presence with him. And then you say Gentiles hear the good news. Being kind of now then, here before God, all that's being commanded to the Eternal. Then Peter, Acts 10:34, opened his mouth and said, I truly understand that the Eternal is no one to show favoritism, but in every nation, the one who fears him does not and does what is right and acceptable for him. Till this time, nothing has been righted. Nothing. Till this time, nothing has been righted. Right? Now, he's saying that he appointed Yeshua with the Ruach HaKodesh and power given about doing the healing were possessed by the devil because God was with him. We are witnesses, right? But said, not to all people, but to us, witnesses who were chosen beforehand by the Eternal, and command us to proclaim the good news, ordained to judge of the living and the dead. And while Peter was still speaking these words, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, fell to those hearing the message. He was speaking about it. Right? They were not circumcised, and they were sharing the holy presence. They were coming to the presence of the Father. The Father was choosing among the Gentiles people for him. Right? Then they were hearing speaking tongues and magnifying the Eternal. Then Peter answered, can anyone refuse water for these to be purified, who have received the holy presence just as we did? Can anybody be purified? Stop to not being purified. Is it circumcised or not circumcised? That really doesn't matter. That really does not care. The problem was that so he commanded to Ben to be purified in the authority of Yeshua the Messiah, and then they have something to say for a few days. Now, if you go back to Acts 15, the Jerusalem Council, people who actually stood together because they were part of the same community, and then they actually came to the conclusion of what was going on. You go back down a little bit down, sorry. They write a letter, right? It seems good to the emissaries and elders with the whole community to those men among themselves to send Antioch and Paul and Barnabas. They send Judah and also Barnabas and Silas, leading men among the brethren, and this letter along with them, the emissaries of the elder brothers to the Gentile brothers of Antioch, Syria, and Cilicia, greetings. To Gentiles. Okay, what is the letter about? I want to know what's the letter about. Since we have heard that some among us have been troubled with words disturbing your soul, although we gave them so much authorization, it seems too good to us, having come to one accord. Oh, they came to one accord. It's not, they're not something they're rejecting one people because they didn't believe. No, they came together and actually they got an accord. They select some people who have risked their lives in the name of the Dawn, the Messiah, the Lord, the owner. And it seemed good to the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, unto us, to not place on you any greater burden than these essentials. These essentials, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to highlight it. Do you abstain from things offered to idols? Things offered to idols. That can be candy in Thanksgiving. That can be that can be the turkey in Thanksgiving. That can be the candy of and the Halloween. Stained things offered to idols. How come? Where they got from that? Where they could get that from? From blood. Not eating blood. Where they got that from? You think this is just because they just think that that's the more common sense for them? Again, having things routed into your brain according to why is things happening, it will give you a reason why actually the world works the way it is, for good or for bad. But then you need to know why things are like that, and not just start thinking whatever they offer me because that's what you believe as truth. Truth is going to have something concerning to you, is going to drive you to holiness, for things that seems good to the eternal, from things strangled, right, and from sexual immorality, where all these things come from, where they're getting all of these. Oh my holy Father, you know, by keeping away from these things, you will do well. You will do well. Only those ones. I mean, then you can just have an images, right? How about respecting mother and father? No, that's not there, right? So when they were sent up to Antioch and they were gathered to a group together, they delivered the letter. And then they read the letter and rejoice, right? They delivered the letter and the group together. They delivered the letter and the people read and rejoiced over this encouragement. It's encouragement. I'm going to highlight it again. They encouraged the people to not eat like that. As not maybe people want to think, oh, just don't eat, don't smell, and you know what, you don't be judged. You can eat whatever you want. Maybe Peter was just saying, no, you know what, I cannot eat anything unholy. He was having that truth for somewhere written down somehow or into his culture, because it is unholy for Peter, it should be unholy for us. After spending some time there, they were sent off with peace by their brothers and sisters and those who had sent them. By Paul, Barnabas remained in Antioch. And then, yeah. And I actually forgot. I jump over there. Yeah, I just saw it. Sorry again. I'm gonna put it a little bit. Oh, my goodness. Again. When they arrived at Jerusalem, they called welcome the emissaries. The elders reported helped them, but some belonging to the party of Pharisees. After much debate, Peter stood up and said, brothers, you know that in the early days the eternal choose among you by the mouth of the Gentiles should hear the message of the good news and believe. It was saying in the prophets. It's said in the prophets. And the eternal who knows the heart testify by them, give him the Holy Spirit, just as he also did for us. Just what is happening with Cornelius. He made no distinction between us and them, purifying their hearts through faith, believing in the Messiah, believing in righteousness, believing in holiness, believing in what is unholy and what is unclean as well, right? Because of course the Pharisees want to say, no, you know what, you need to circumcise so you can be part of it. It was not necessary. It was not necessary for the eternal. Why they were putting that joke on them? And actually, you know what, we considered, and the Holy Spirit considered, what is this correct? Why then you put the eternal to the test, putting a yoke to the neck of the disciples, which either your fathers nor we able to be able to bear. They neither it didn't work all that circumcision to them at all to keep holiness. They were just keep sinning at all. Same thing with the tzitzit. They would just keep sinning, right? So, but instead we believe that we are saved to the favor of the Adon Messiah, the Yeshua, in the same way as they are. Then the whole group became silent, listened to Barnabas and Paul. They were describing the details, all signs and wonders that the Eternal had done through them among the Gentiles. They were healing Gentiles. After they finished, Jacob asked her brother, listen to me, Simon, Cephas, Peter had described how the Eternal feast showed his concern by taking from Gentiles people for his name. It's clearer than that. The words of the prophets agree with is written. After I will return to build the tabernacle of David and restore it, so that the test of humanity may seek the Eternal, namely by the Gentiles who are called by my name, says Adonai, who makes all the things known from old. It did happen again. It's been revealed since then, so we can find him. Right? Therefore I judge not, and this is Jacob. I judge not to trouble those minds of Gentiles who are turning to the Eternal, but to write to them. Listen to this. To abstain from the contamination of idols. No idolatry. Do yourself a good favor and know where all the things that you believe come from. And no sexual immorality. They're all well written in Leviticus. Right? And from what is strangled, and from blood. And from blood is strangled. Why all these things? Why he's playing? For or because or why Moses from ancient generations had in every city those who proclaim him. Proclaiming Moses. Who proclaimed Moses? Every synagogue or every single church should so accept so. If they're believing the same thing. And he is read in all the synagogues every Shabbat. Every Shabbat. So then they write down the letter that we just read. Nothing like that. It's not about food. It's about receiving people. It's about coming to holiness. It's about rejecting idolatry, regardless of where it comes from, right? It's rejecting the unholy and unclean and receiving every single person who actually wants to see the Eternal and turn to him in obedience and sanctification and righteousness. It happened to me on October 31st, and I realized that I have to leave all this pagan world to start walking in obedience and holy sanctification so I can be with my Father the time he called Sadak. That was part of my turning point. If this works for somebody out there, well, blessed be the Eternal. Exalted be the Eternal. For me, I got nothing else to say. It was just a short kind of a commentary I wanted to give to people and to kind of a single small testimony. Hopefully it's gonna be a bless for you, and that's gonna be something that I don't know. It works fine. Leave your comments and questions. I might be able to answer. Thank you for coming, and have a blessed rest of the week. Shalom.